nice and energized from a full day of class, right? I appreciate that, even if you're faking it. Obviously, Rev and Jaquez, and we are presenting about Greek life.
Yeah, so how many people in here are Greek?
Aren't?
Are.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so you might have a little bit of insight over there, maybe not, but if you have, as always, if you have a question or something like that, feel free to raise your hand at any time. We can be interrupted, anything like that, so if you got a question. You don't have to save it to the end, although we do have a time at the end for all that stuff. So starting off, I just want to point to you over here. This is kind of the agenda of what we're going over. So in case you're looking at the handout, or you kind of nod off for a second, I'm going to be popping things off as we're going through them, so you can always refer back to it in case you're, in case you need a little bit of direction. So going over some learning outcomes. So at the end of this, what you all should be able to do is identify and recognize the history of Greek life as related to student affairs. So knowing the history is quite important. Recognize your own personal biases and assumptions about Greek life, and then also identify the skills and challenges associated in working with Greek life. So we'll come back to that at the end. We'll see if everybody kind of has a good understanding of those three outcomes. Yes, this is the teacher and me.
Also, something to note that it wasn't challenging, but it was a little difficult because when you hear about Greek life, you automatically think of students. So then, and we had to realize that we're not focusing on the students, we need to look at the professionals. So it's going to be a little challenge, but it's going to be great, promise. All right, so myths and stereotypes. So here are a couple of pictures, or whatever you want to call these things, about people who are Greek. So this is about the students. This is not necessarily about the professionals. So if you want to read them, so if anybody can say, list some things that they've heard about Greek life, or people who are Greek, or we can have professionals who are Greek, you know what I'm saying? So what are some stereotypes? What are some myths that you
It
have
can be
heard?
the same or different than what's already up there.
Frat
bros.
Frat bro right there.
They're drunk all the time?
Drunk, always drunk.
Sorority squad.
Sorority squad. Basic. Somebody says rich. Anything else? Networking. That's
Service.
Expensive.
Stuck up? Exclusive?
There's one over here that says something about
Yeah.
paying for friends. That's
Yeah.
always good to know.
Real life.
Oh, yeah.
Superior.
Also, like cheaters, like academic dishonesty.
Cheaters.
Hazing.
Hazing, good one.
Hey, thanks for identifying the elephant in the room.
Sexual
Yeah.
Sexual violence.
Racist parties.
Racist party, yeah. Good one. Come on,
All
teacher.
right.
Okay. So we're gonna go. Alright, here we go.
All right, so we'll go into the background and the history, and there's a long, long history with Greek life. The first Greek letter organization actually started in 1776, so it's as old as the nation itself. And they started off as secret societies. These were not in any way affiliated with colleges, but they happened, on campuses. So Phi Beta Kappa, up there, in case you don't know what that first letter is. They were the first one in 1776, and the reason that they actually were able to exist further on is that even though colleges were trying to stamp them out, because they were secret societies, nobody ratted each other out. So they got to continue to exist throughout the years. And they're really common, and they're obviously gender exclusive. So you're looking at, fraternities, males only, sororities, females only. It's just very, very recent within the last few years that I've heard stories about fraternities allowing transgender. There's a chapter of my fraternity that the day that a prospective member they wanted to join, they had a gender operation. The day that they completed that, still in the hospital, they initiated that member, which I was actually really proud of. And that's something that you maybe typically associate with all of these wonderful terms over here.
Also, real quick, just going along with the history, and so basically Phi Beta Kappa is a predominantly white fraternity. And then on the opposite side, so African American fraternities came around in 1906, and the first one was Alpha Phi Alpha. And it was created for the same exact reason, which is a little awkward, not awkward, but a little weird. You wouldn't think that, but it was because they didn't feel like they belonged in college, so they created their own society, and it just built it off from that since 1906. So it's a long difference in between, but that's when it started.
So obviously we see with these long, long histories, there are traditions that are way outside the realm and sometimes even the control of an institution. So that can be a challenge, which we'll get to later, about, well, what can we do about these old traditions that maybe aren't part of the institutional mission? What can we do about that? So, I'm sure that everybody's noticed these things that are around the classroom about the disagree, agree, strongly, strongly disagree. In case you've noticed those, we're going to do an
And we
activity.
relaxed, so we've been sitting up since yesterday.
Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a series of statements. I'm going to have everybody stand up and
Stand up.
completely
Yeah.
silently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's agree.
So completely silently, I'm going to read a statement, and you're going to move to whichever corner you feel about that statement. I am knowledgeable about how students' affairs interact with Greeks. Completely honesty, nobody judging.
I'm being the neutral zone. Is that cool?
I am. If you feel that I am knowledgeable,
You go that
You're
way.
yourself.
You're not. You're
okay. A large amount of people on, especially on the disagree section. Somebody that strongly disagrees. Why would you say that you have no idea?
We didn't have it at my undergrad.
That's common.
So
I was
no.
never involved in Greek life.
Never involved in Greek life. Okay. How about somebody that agrees? Do you,
Well, my internship worked right next to the Greek Life office, so interacted with those professionals, understood their advising, and was a part of it.
okay. Thank you. All right. Next statement. Greek life helps students graduate. So being involved with Greek life.
Being Greek.
Can you like in the middle of that?
I don't know anything about that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, look so uncomfortable.
I
I'm
like
guessing,
how everybody
but I don't
is
really
like
know.
kind of in the middle here. Nobody feels super strongly about it.
I mean,
So the question.
strength of my
Yeah.
choice.
So the question is, do you think being Greek will help you graduate? If that helps.
I'm gonna go back in the middle. I have no idea.
And that's great. According to DeBarden Sachs, they did find a positive correlation between academic performance for Greeks rather than their, or how did they say it? What was most revealing is that membership was positively aligned with academic success when compared to those students who decided to remain unaffiliated. So there's actually it's small, but it is a positive correlation. And this is studying students in their first year. So there's something to be said about that. Greeks, Greeks get into trouble. No wrong answers.
Don't quote me on this.
I'm going off my personal
I mean, everybody's
Yeah.
At least that's 5%.
Most people
You know
are.
what? You know what? Be neutral again.
Alright, most people agree or strongly agree. Any personal experiences that strongly agree?
I think, first of all, I come from somewhere where Greek is actually known. And actually, I think, yeah, they do get in trouble, but that doesn't make them bad. Bad people, because I will say it's been a touchy situation as far as African American fraternity I'm really, really close to. But I will say they are really, really nice people and they practice a lot of good things. So I will say that's why it goes back into like them graduating. Another question that you mentioned, they normally graduate. I will say that from what I see. So I will say they do get in trouble, but however, it is some advantages to it.
Okay.
I feel like anytime you hear about Greek societies, it's because they threw a racist party or they posted banners outside of their fraternities telling fathers to drop their daughters off at the door. A lot of sexual violence, and that's really the first thing that I think about when I hear it.
Really quick, can we hold your comments to the end?
I know we said
For the questions.
I know we said that we would do it.
Because I
but
know this will get you guys
running
going.
a little bit.
All right, one more. I think it's
We got two more. Actually.
okay. So, do you think non-Greek professionals are able to effectively work with as Greek advisors?
Yes.
goodness, I'm like the weird person here.
So most people disagree.
Excuse me? What did you just call yourself?
I'm the only person anywhere near this corner. But
We're kind of allies.
yeah.
Yeah. So, if you I know you don't have your papers with you, but most job requirements in student affairs, you have to be Greek in order to work with Greek affairs. Now, if you're a graduate student, that may look a little different. So, if you want that experience as a grad student, they'll give it to you. But as a professional, full-time professional, you have to have some experience.
Yeah. 2 out of the 3 job postings we have on there, it is a requirement. So even if it's not a requirement, there is a unique set of challenges, and having to understand the system and a little bit of the history like we kind of talked about. So last question, or last statement is,
Being a professional in Greek life is valued as a student affairs professional.
do you think that this is a valued aspect of student life?
It is, but if you're respected. Yeah. Valued by who?
In student affairs, do you think Greek life, as a Greek life professional, is it valued in the realm of student affairs?
Oh, is it valued by like other?
Yeah, so
Sure.
student affairs.
Okay. So people don't feel extremely strongly about one way or the other. Except for Nancy. And there's a lot of things that we could talk about right here, but
Thank you guys.
in the interest of time, we'll have everybody take their seats. Thank you very much for
Sorry.
So in your handout, if you turn to the second page, the question is brought up, what does this have to do with student affairs? So what does Greek life actually have to do with student affairs? So at most universities and colleges, student affairs professionals advise these Greek organizations. So it's not some random person, it's not the person that's in the Greek. So like if you are Sigma, that's that part of Greek life, it won't be anybody from that sorority, like that work in a national place advising that. It'll be somebody in student affairs advising that. Does that make sense? So, bam.
So these are some of the skills that are used, and everybody here knows how to read. Thanks for being in grad school. So these are also reflected upon what on the interviews we had. We had interviews from 2 different institutions, as well as we had the opportunity to interview somebody from the national fraternity, one of the top positions over there, which was a very unique perspective on their interactions with student affairs professionals and institutions as well.
So some of the skills used is being patient. So being patient with these guys, not guys and girls. They enjoy it. Like they want to work with their sisters and brothers. They want to be this big family. They want to throw unregistered parties and things like that, but they don't necessarily understand why these things may not be in place. So somebody who I interviewed was Caitlin. She is advisor of the Pan-Hellenic Network, gets me every time, council at Western Illinois University. And she said one major issue that she has is trying to get students to understand. So yes, you want to have this unregistered party, but they don't get why they can't. And they don't think about the big picture, everything that's going on in the news with Greek life and how people are doing those racist things and how people are dying because of hazing and things like that. They don't necessarily see that picture. So she said when students actually get it, that makes her job 100% better as a professional.
So along with skills, we have challenges as well. So when I talked to Nathan, who was the Greek life advisor, he said sometimes you might have to deal with potentially illegal or dangerous situations, and being prepared for that, knowing when to escalate it up to higher and when you can kind of solve it in-house. Knowing the differences between Greek organizations, everyone has a different value system, everything like that, kind of feeling them out. Rules and regulations that we just had in the skills, FERPA, HIPAA, Title IX, Student Code of Conduct, hazing, there's a million different things just to be familiar with, at the very least. Along with several other things, we referenced changing cultures. Sometimes you walk into a situation and you don't realize that, oh, this fraternity or sorority has always done things this way, not how we want them to do. How can we change that? How can we work with them, maybe with their national office, to get things going the right way?
Another challenge we recognize in the field is that a professional may, can I keep going? Really quickly. All right.
2 minutes tops.
Deal. So a professional in the field, when something happens nationwide, dealing with Greek life they may feel like they're unwanted. You know what I'm saying? So if a chapter may be called hazing nationwide and somebody may have died, when they come in as a person who advises Greek life, they feel some type of way saying that, wow, now when I walk into a room, everybody's gonna look at me funny because this just happened out there, so they're not gonna really qualify my job as saying you don't really need to be here or things like that. Another challenge really quickly is when it's time for budget cuts, some schools think like, do we really need Greek life? Is this one thing that we can take out because it's not really necessary? So it's a lot of challenges in the field.
St. Cloud State has completely eliminated Greek life, and other places are waiting for a reason to do so as well. So, higher leadership, there's a good quote on the bottom of page 3 in your handout, which explains it better than I probably could. So we will go with that as far as how higher ed leadership, so like on the vice chancellor, vice president, or maybe exit, which is the next one. There's references, 2 pages of them, and special thanks to people who will be interviewed. At this point, viewing the learning outcomes, does everybody feel like they have a little bit better understanding of the history of Greek life? I see a lot of north-south.
Questions?
So with